Hi, this YouTube video will be about the debate between the Nestorian Patriarch of the Church of the East, Timothy I, who wrote in Syriac and spoke Arabic. He debated with Al-Mahdi, the Islamic Sunni Muslim Abbasid Caliph, who ruled in the 8th century, or the 2nd century for Muslims, 2nd and 3rd century Muslims, I suppose. Uh, but anyway, this account will be based on Patriarch Timothy uh, in a letter he sent with a monk. Now there's a couple different versions of the letter, but by and large, they're all the same. With some have more detail than others, but regardless, this account will be based from the book Syrian Christians under Islam, the First 1,000 Years, written by David Richard Thomas. I'll be starting around page 91, 92, and quoting on from there the primary sources. Anyway, let's start. It starts off with his introduction to his monk friend, the patriarch, that is. It says, "And our gracious and wise king said to me, 'What do you say about Muhammad?' And I replied to his majesty, 'Muhammad is worthy of all praise by all reasonable people. O my sovereign, he walked in the path of the prophets, he trod in the track of the lovers of God. All the prophets taught the doctrine of one God. Since Muhammad taught the doctrine of the unity of God, he walked therefore in the path of the prophets. Further, all the prophets drove men away from bad works and brought them nearer to good works. And since Muhammad drove his people away from bad works and brought them nearer to good ones, he walked therefore in the path of prophets. Again, all the prophets separated men from idolatry and polytheism, and attached them to God and to his cult. And since Muhammad separated his people from idolatry and polytheism, and attached them to the cult and the knowledge of the one God, besides whom there is no other, it is obvious that he walked in the path of all the prophets. Finally, Muhammad taught about God, his word, and his spirit. And since all prophets had prophesied about God, his word, and his spirit, Muhammad walked, therefore, in the path of all the prophets." Now, it should be noted about this is that the patriarch's not calling Muhammad a prophet. He's saying he did things similar to the prophets. He said he walked in the path of them. He's giving him some credit because Muhammad did take these people away from idolatry. Anyway, this continues on. Who will not praise, honor, and exalt the one who fought for God, not only in word, but with the sword, showed also his zeal for him, as Moses did with the children of Israel when he saw that they fashioned a golden calf which they worshipped, and killed all those who were worshipping it. Also Muhammad evinced an ardent zeal towards God, and loved and honored him more than his own soul, his people, and his relatives. He praised, honored, and exalted those who worshipped God with him, and promised with them kingdom, praise, and honor from God, both in this world and the world to come in the garden. But those who worshipped idols and not God, he fought and opposed, and showed them the torments of hell and of fire, which is never quenched, and in which evildoers burn eternally. And what Abraham, that friend and beloved of God, did in turning his face from idols and his kinsmen, and looking only towards the one God, becoming the preacher of the one God to other people, this also Muhammad did. He turned his face from idols and their worshippers, whether those idols were those of his kinsmen or of strangers. He honored and worshipped only one God. Because of this, God honored him exceedingly, and brought low before his feet two powerful kingdoms, which roared in the world like a lion, and made the voice of their authority heard like thunder in all the earth that is below heaven. That is the kingdom of the Persians, and that of the Romans. The former kingdom, that is to say, the kingdom of the Persians, worshipped creatures instead of God, and the later, that is to say, the kingdom of the Romans, attributed suffering and death in the flesh to the one who cannot suffer and die in any way and through any process. This is actually a shot against the Orthodox, the Catholics, which I am part of, but this is specifically the Byzantine Empire because the Muslims took over large parts of the Byzantine Empire. But anyway, he proceeds. He further extended the power of his authority through the commander of the faithful and his children, from east to west and from north to south, who will not praise, O our victorious King, the one whom God has praised, and who will not weave a crown of glory and majesty for the one whom God glorified and exalted. These and similar things I and all lovers of God utter about Muhammad, O my sovereign. And our king said to me, You should therefore accept the words of the prophet. And I replied to him, About which words does our king speak? And our king said to me that God is one and there is no other besides him. And I replied, This belief in the one God, O my sovereign, I have learned from the Torah and from the prophets and from the gospel. I stand by it and I shall die by it. Then the Caliph says, How is it that you accept Muhammad and the gospel from the testimony of the Torah and the prophets, and you do not accept Muhammad from the testimony of Christ and the gospel? And I replied to his majesty, O our king, we have received concerning Christ numerous distinct testimonies from the Torah and the prophets. And then he continues on. These and scores of other passages of the prophets show us Jesus Christ in clear mirror and point to him. So far as Muhammad is concerned, I have not received a single testimony either from the Jesus Christ or from the gospel which refer to his name or his works. And our benevolent and gracious king made a sign to mean that he was not convinced. He then repeated twice to me the question, Have you not received any? And I replied to him, No, O God-loving king, I have not received any. And the king asked me, Who then is the paraclete? Which is a very common apologetic point among the Muslims. They still ask this today, insisting it's Muhammad. Anyway, Patriarch Timothy responds, And since the one who is not the Spirit is by inference not the paraclete, Muhammad is not the paraclete. If he were not mentioned in the gospel, this mention would have been marked by a distinct portraiture characterizing his coming, his name, his mother, and of his people, as the true portraiture of the coming of Jesus Christ is found, as the true portraiture of the coming of Christ is found in the Torah and the prophets. And since nothing resembling this is found in the gospel concerning Muhammad, it is evident that there is no mention of him in it at all. And this is the reason why I have not received a testimony from the gospel about him. By the way, the paraclete is based on John chapter 14. Anyway, he goes on to explain why he did not move on to accept the Quran. He says, As for us, we have not accepted Muhammad because we have not a single testimony about him in our books. And our king said, There were many testimonies, but the books have been corrupted and you have removed them. And which is still a claim that Muslims make today. And then Timothy continues on and responds, To tell the truth, I have found in the gospel a single testimony concerning the coming of Muhammad. Rather, he says, if I had found in the gospel a single prophecy concerning the coming of Muhammad, I would have moved from the gospel to the Quran, and I would have moved from the Torah and the prophets to the gospel, as I moved from the Torah and the prophets to the gospel. And then they start to discuss John the Baptist. And Saint Timothy, or rather Patriarch Timothy says, And I replied, Because of the prophet Jacob said, The scepter of the kingdom shall not depart from Judah, nor an utterer of prophecy from his seed until the Christ come, because the kingdom is his, and he is the expectation of the peoples. In this he shows that after the coming of the Christ there will neither be prophet nor prophecy, and Daniel also concurs in saying that for putting an end to all vision and prophecy, and for the coming of Christ the King, 7 weeks and 62 weeks will elapse, and then Christ will be killed, and there will not be any more kingdom and prophecy in Jerusalem. In this he showed that vision and prophecies will come to an end with Christ, And the Christ himself said the prophets and the Torah prophesied until John. Every prophecy, therefore, ended with the time of Christ, and after Christ there will be no more prophecy, nor did any prophet rise. Now to proceed on. And our king said to me, if you accept Muhammad as a prophet, your words would be beautiful and your meanings fine. And I replied to his majesty, we find that there is only one prophet who would come to the world after the ascension of Christ to heaven and his descent from heaven. This we know from the prophet Malachi and from the angel Gabriel, who, when he announced the birth of John to Zechariah, who was John's father. And our king said, and who is that prophet? And I replied, the prophet Elijah. Know that I am going to send you Elijah the prophet before my days come, the great and terrible day. He shall turn the hearts of fathers towards their children, and the hearts of children towards their fathers, lest I come and strike the land with a curse, because it was towards John that all the prophecies of the prophets and of the law were leading, and he, if you believe me, is the Elijah who was to return. If anyone has ear to hear, let him listen. And he concludes, Patriarch Timothy, both Messenger John and Elijah are one power of the Spirit, with the difference that one already came before Christ, and the other is going to come before him, and their coming is similar and to the same effect. In the second coming, Christ will appear from heaven in the great cloud, great glory of angels, to effect the resurrection of the children of Adam from graves. As the Word of God, he created everything from the beginning and is going to renew everything in the end. He is the King of kings and Lord of lords, and there is no end, no limit to his kingdom. And anyway, these talks start to discuss the false prophets, in which he quotes Paul. I believe it's from 2 Timothy. Let me get the exact. Oh no, this is actually from Christ in Matthew 24 or Luke 13. And he quotes, many false prophets will arise, they will deceive many, and with the increase of lawlessness, the love in most men will grow cold. If anyone shall say to you, look, here is Christ, or look, he is there, do not believe it. For many false Christs and many false prophets will arise and produce great signs and portents, enough to deceive even the chosen, if that were possible. You, therefore, must be on your guard. I have forewarned you of everything. Anyway, there's like another version of this. And here's like translated Arabic, and it says, further, Christ did not leave any knowledge or deed, any promise or threat, which he should have without bringing it. This is why he warned us not to accept another than him, lest he should lead us away from what is required. And here we also have it saying, Christ directed us to the kingdom of heaven, and it is superfluous after the knowledge that we have of God in the kingdom of heaven that we should be brought down to the knowledge of human and earthly things. Arabic's above. And anyway, he goes on a point about a philosopher makes. He quotes a philosopher. He says, as the prophets, they prophesied sometimes concerning the earthly affairs and kingdom, and other times concerning the adorable epiphany and the incarnation of the Word God. As for Jesus Christ, he did not reveal to us things dealing with the law and earthly affairs. He solely brought us things dealing with the knowledge of God and the kingdom of heaven. Now the note here is with the word law, it's actually some versions has referring to Sharia, which here it is, the note. The note says, there's a clear allusion to Islamic Sharia. It's not referring to the Torah, though some texts seem to be omitting this, as noted here. According to the Syriac text and the long Arabic version of the text, Timothy proceeds and says to the king, "A good and praiseworthy order of things is that which takes us up from the bottom to the top, from human to divine things, and from earthly to heavenly things. But an order which would lower us from the top to the bottom, the earthly, is bad and blameworthy." Then Thomas here notes, Thomas says no more, but the meaning is very clear. Christ brought us to the top, and there could be no more upward advance after this. Any other step would be a backward step, as is clearly said in the short Arabic version. And you could read the short Arabic. You can read transliteration of Arabic. Anyway, it says, "The ordinary divine economy is to take us from bottom to the top, from earthly to heavenly things, and not bring us backwards, and to lower us from heavenly to earthly things. Such is the case with the Torah and the Gospel." And then discussing what religion is true. This is actually not asked by the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, "Which religion is true?" He answered this: "A true religion is the one whose laws and commandments are similar to God's doings in the creation." Then it has the Arabic there. And the Caliph admired Timothy, who did not mention any religion, but alluded to the Christian faith, which commands, "Love your enemy and pray for those who persecute you. In this way you will be the sons of the Father in heaven. For he causes his sun to rise on the bad men as well as good, and his rain to fall on the honest and dishonest alike." This concludes my account of Patriarch Timothy I, Patriarch of the Church of the East, an historian, and his dialogue with Muslim Caliph Al-Mahdi in the 8th century. Anyway, this is ǀᾶ헨ься / Orthodox Catholic. God bless.